Hello everyone, I'm Zahid from Talks at Innovation Valley podcast, and today we have a very amazing guest with us, Sebastian Cao. Sebastian is a senior staff program manager for service augmentation and readiness at Tesla. So, our today's topic is product innovation in today's fast paced world, how to apply AI wisely. So, first of all, I really warm welcome you, Sebastian, to the show.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. Sebastian, before we jump to the topic and questions, I would love you to know our audience, to let our audience know your story, your journey so far. I mean, from where you got your education and from where you started your professional career and how you got to this point so far.
Okay, that's a long story in a way, full of changes and all that. But I'm originally from Argentina. Actually, I was born there in the southern part of Latin America. I studied computer science. I'm a computer science engineer. I started working with big software companies from the US. Started my career at Sybase. That was a great database company that got acquired by uh, SAP, I think, a few years ago. Yes. And then I founded my own company when I was the age of 25. We brought some open source middleware back in the day when open source was not something that was as mainstream as it is today. I'm talking about mid 2000s, when I was amazed by the amount of innovation and the rapid innovation coming from the open source community. Coming from a developing country, I knew that for our economies, the government and our companies, SMBs in the economy, using open source software that is cheaper than obviously using proprietary software, like big software from the big software companies, of course, will be a much better proposition to innovate and move forward than buying from the big companies in the US. So we brought that technology to Latin America. We started in Argentina, then we moved to several countries like Chile, Peru, and then Brazil and Colombia. And 2 years after, that particular software that we were having like the ownership in Latin America, let's put it that way, was acquired that company in the US by Red Hat, the Linux company, the first open source enterprise company. They opened offices in Latin America, and I was asked to join the company and start the business development in all of Latin America. So move forward 14 years probably I spent over there and end up being the CTO for Latin America, including Brazil. But 3 years ago, 4 years ago, I decided that I wanted to do a change. I want to have much more impact in what I was doing. It was not only about pushing software with big corporations, but mostly about what was the impact that I was doing in society. And I was concerned, I've been always concerned with climate change and sustainability. And I decided to, left that cozy executive career. I came to the US, I came to Stanford. I did a master's, a 1-year master's, and tried to learn as much as possible about energy and sustainability and the energy transition. And after doing that, with my background in software and in architecture and enterprise architecture, I decided to use that, apply to sustainability, and end up at Tesla. It was a little bit of serendipity, but yes, I'm working at the cutting edge of technology. But I feel that every day I'm working towards the mission of doing a better world and accelerating the transition to sustainable energy. That's my journey so far.
All right.
Are you there? Okay.
Exciting journey, Sebastian. Before we, go bit deep, my first question is when we talk on the innovation, what actually you think is innovation, and especially what is product innovation? Do you think?
Um, I tend to say the word empathy a lot these days, and I think we can see that with ChatGPT and everyone running crazy. I think it's innovation is just not designing something new or a new product or new technology. It's understanding how users could be augmented, or how people can do better using that technology, either that product or that tool, to become better at their jobs, to become better at their lives. So being in Silicon Valley, you tend to see a lot of different apps and a lot of different technologies being invented. But my definition of innovation is you're doing something that is doing good, that is being used for the greater good, and you're actually changing the way we do things. Certainly, this was a big piece of innovation, but because it's not because it's cool, but because it allows us to do much more, being much more productive, connect with our family, especially being an expat family that is abroad. So it's, for me, it's all about, are you pushing forward humanity and doing something that is new and has a purpose? I'm not that into innovation that is just a simple app that is doing, simple games that is just, or may I say social media, but that's a bigger topic. For me, innovation is all of the kind of things.
All right. So, Sebastian, how artificial intelligence impacted product innovation in today's fast-paced world? And how do you think artificial intelligence can add value to product innovation?
I think I will say artificial intelligence will provide value to any field of human knowledge. For me, the key word there is, again, augmentation. It's just helping us do whatever we do better. It's not replacing us. That there's no, for me, in my view, I'm trying not to think of machine learning replacing humans, but just augmenting humans and do things better by means of being able to think more broadly and having more data and having more information on the decisions that we're making. So if you think product innovation or product design, at its core is just running a bunch of hypotheses and thinking about different ways of combining existing technologies or existing products, existing functionality, and creating something new. With machine learning, what you go artificial intelligence in general, what you can do is run much more of those hypotheses, many more experiments at the same time, and maybe actually build a simulator or whatnot about human behaviors or human preferences, and just try as many combinations as possible. So it will help us or any product managers try more stuff at once. But at the end of the day, I still believe that the final judgment of what is needed and what is of value for another human being, hopefully for several years to come, will still rely on us humans making that final call. So what I would like to see, I'm trying to do, is make better decisions, better predictions. I would like to say that. I will rely on AI for predictions, but I rely on myself, on my team, for judgment. And that's the kind of balance that I think we can bring to product management today.
All right. What are some practical examples of how AI has been applied to improve product innovation? Can you share some of the used cases that you think that you fascinate about?
Probably I will say we're getting there, but it's a little bit about A/B testing and trying to simulate human behavior, human preferences at scale. I was reading the other day an article about, for example, a good example of, I think it was the 2021 America's Cup, the yacht race from New Zealand, that they've been using simulators to design boats for many, many years, like designing planes. We know how to have a machine and have a digital twin of that machine, heavy machinery, and try all different scenarios, all different combinations to make that design better. The thing that they were trying differently is they were building an AI to simulate the sailors' decisions with the boat or the strategies. So throwing different combinations at them, like different wind speed, different behavior from the other teams, weather conditions, and all that. They were simulating sailors doing a bunch of decisions at scale very rapidly and comparing the results. And again, that's an example of testing a lot of hypotheses at the same time. And they were learning from the AI, the sailors, the human sailors, were learning from the AI about different combinations of decisions based on patterns on the weather and the input. They were making them better at making the judgment, the real decisions in real life when they were about to race the race. So I think that's for me is innovation with AI in product management, is you can simulate whatever different combinations of things you want to try, but you can also simulate the response from your users or your customers, and you can try very cheaply, like A/B testing at scale. Instead of just releasing one website and going like a month and trying to track all the clicks from all the different users and seeing, okay, this page or this design is drawing much more attention than the other one. It's just you can simulate all of that with AI in your own machine and say, hey, actually, I'm finding that if I can simulate correctly my users tend to favor this option than the other ones, and they're actually reacting or interacting with that option in this or that other way, in different ways. And you can learn from that. And you can include that in your product design, test again. And when you are getting into production and pre-production, actually testing with real users, you have a lot of much more informed decisions and much more informed feedback that you can use. So again, you are augmenting your users' behavior, augmenting your job as a product manager with AI and not just replacing it.
All right. Sebastian, what challenges do businesses face when incorporating AI into their product development process, especially with reference to the human resource teams or resistance to the change or what?
I think not human resources. I mean, human beings by design, we are afraid of change. I mean, and you can see everything. I think it's super healthy, the kind of discussion that we're having right now with ChatGPT and regulation and what we get from the people, from the doomsday kind of recommendations of people saying, hey, this is coming. I mean, it's going to be the AI apocalypse, to the other one saying it's going to be free will and we're all going to use it. I think there's something in between. So we are always afraid when new technology comes. In my case, working with AI at scale in a company as advanced as Tesla, I still find that we need to explain to human beings why we are making the change, why we are using AI apply, and just tell a story. Most basic of human values or human interactions, tell stories. Storytelling is, we're doing this because we want to get to a better place and we need to scale at speed, and we need support to make you better. That's why I think I mentioned it's part of my title, but actually I changed from the word automation to augmentation on my own title, business title, my team, because that was the story that I wanted to tell to my users or my partners. It's, we are here to just use software or AI to make you better, so you can do more during the same hours of the day. We might scale the team, but there's a limit of the amount of people that we can actually hire and train. We need to do more, and the only way to get there is through AI. But the AI is just there to help you to do through more, to make decisions faster, to go through more data, to help you get to a solution faster, to give you different points of view or different ways of approach the problem, so you can go faster through that. That's the way for me to include or embed machine learning or AI in any system, human system. And by system, I don't mean software, but just a system composed of software, hardware, and human beings. That is, any organization is a system based on that. So it's a challenge because if we are not explaining why we're doing this, first reaction from people, especially if they are not as informed or educated as many of who might be actually listening to this podcast might be, we are not informed as what is machine learning, what is about, what is the future of AI. You might think it's a negative thing, and your first reaction will be to just push back. So even though it's the most advanced thing that we are using right now, I feel that we still rely on a lot of storytelling and change management and cultural management. That is human beings with human beings. There's no other way around it.
Sebastian, do you think there is also a dark side of AI? Many people talk on the dark side of the AI. How can companies ensure that they apply AI wisely to avoid potential pitfalls, ethical concerns, or destruction?
Yes, I think that's the main topic today. So far, until we get into the AGI, I mean, the thing about general AI is still judgment being coded by human beings. I mean, AI is going through predictions and then making a judgment that someone else coded, the AI team, the data science team. So if it is bias embedded, if there's a dark side, it was put there by the people actually building that. So it's for us as the teams building those systems to make sure that we are adding enough guardrails and we are using enough data and diverse data and checking whatever inputs we are giving to the system and also checking on the outputs to make sure that we're doing the right thing. It's not, the AI is not, there's no dark side to the AI for now. Hopefully there won't be. It's just whoever is building that AI, whoever trained that AI, if they made the right decisions at the time. So I think it's about regulators and about us as teams developing in AI to make sure that we're doing the right thing and embedded the right thing into the algorithms, into the AI, and also checking on the output, because sometimes I feel that we create something and then it's a pinpoint solution, we drop that and we deploy that, and then we're not checking on the output, and we're just learning that there's a mistake when that mistake was amplified by AI. And that's something that can easily be done. I mean, amplifying an error, because AI goes so fast and you can do, as we said before, so many decisions as you can take into account so much data that without AI, any error or any problem gets amplified. So you need to start slow and small, test that out, get an auditing and a feedback loop, a human in the loop, learn from that. And then when you are ready, you're pretty close to almost perfection, you deploy the model. People want, certainly many companies here in the Valley, run fast and break things and all that. With AI, I want something that you are making a judgment that will change a decision made by the human beings or by a human being or may apply to a human being. I think we need to take much more time in reviewing and checking against a standard, what is the input and what is the output.
All right. Sebastian, innovation is good. Automation is
Yes.
good. Automation is good. Innovation is good. But how to ensure that companies are applying AI with human-centered approach instead of profit-focused approach?
I mean, any tool made by human beings, could be AI, it could be a rock, could be used in a bad way. I mean, it's not bad people, bad actors that want just profits. We have seen that in many industries for centuries or millennia, probably. So I think it depends on us getting better at that, making sure that we are taking, again, a human-centered approach to the AI. That means, are we using AI to make people's lives better? They are doing their jobs better. We are not replacing jobs, but just moving people from a kind of low-level analysis that the machine can do that better into a higher level of analysis that human beings can use that information to create something new. Again, the difference between prediction and judgment. So that's my approach, and the approach I've been taking with the team is making sure that we are using those tools to go, for example, in the EV market, that company that Tesla is growing so fast, the demand and the output from the market is expecting is much higher than our ability to develop teams and to hire more people into the team. So we need to make people better so they can serve more customers, so we can actually help the energy transition. So it's how you apply AI and to solve which kind of problem. If it is just to manipulate people and get more out of them, more money or more data or whatnot, I mean, then is when I think that we're not doing the right thing. And I hope we have enough guardrails internally in the companies and enough regulation from the government to avoid that. But
Right.
like anything, it should be done by the companies and especially by the employees of the companies. I wouldn't work for a company that is applying AI to do bad, to do the wrong thing. So hopefully many of the ones here in this podcast and many of the people smart enough to do AI would be smart enough also to push back if they're feeling that what they're doing is not in humans in humans well-being.
All right. Sebastian, it is easy to say that we should apply AI wisely. But when we talk on the implementation side, it is very challenging. I mean, when we execute anything, there is a checklist, there are some standards to meet. So, when applying AI in the industry, what are the key considerations when implementing AI technologies to ensure they are really applied wisely?
We can start from the three laws from Asimov. I mean the usual robotic laws about do no harm and all that from a robot to human. I think it's whatever you it's like building a co-pilot. One thing is a co-pilot for developing software, and one thing is a co-pilot actually piloting a plane. So you have human beings, so human lives. I'm sorry, or on the back of the plane. So it's if you made a bad decision, if your decision that was not tuned enough or not tested enough, are life at risk, or people that are perform poorly on their jobs. Are you codifying bias, and that person on the other side might feel that bias and may be challenged in a way that was not fair for them? So I will start with that. I think we need to get to standards, but it will depend obviously on the industry. It's not the same to apply AI for medicine and healthcare and diagnostics. So you need certain set of standards to do that. It's not the same to do predictions about fraud and money laundry when we're moving money around. And there's other things like in the case of Tesla, autopilot or full self-drive. That's AI that is driving, and there's human beings on the streets, and you probably have human beings on the back of your car, and those human beings are really close to you. It could be probably your kids or whatnot. So or your family. So there's a lot of big stakes. So you need to make sure that those kind of systems are really, really well tested and really well designed. And coming from my previous background in open source technology, I would say that most of them should be open source. So open source means that everyone can check on the code and we can keep each other checked. Different actors, and different regulators, and different people from the industry, and even competitors can check on each other and make sure that not everyone is playing fairly. We're not seeing that yet. Hopefully, we'll see more and more open source getting into AI. Right now, the big models and all that seems to be going into the other direction, being closed. So we know the output. We kind of understand what's the input are coming, but we don't know exactly what's going on inside the box. It's a black box. So I think the first thing would be for all of us to be exposed and to understand what's going on inside, who's making the decision and who codified those decisions, to be able to choose which ones you will want to use or will want to leverage.
Right. Sebastian, when we talk on the potential risks of applying AI, what are some common and universal risks that you think could happen, and how those risks or challenges could be avoided?
I think as I would say, you have a spectrum. The loss of life could be one at the extreme, and the first one will be that, I don't know, a customer support agent is giving a bad answer or not a proper answer to a customer. Obviously the stakes are much different. So in the middle, you have, I said, bias. We have been discussing a lot about biases. If you have a AI system that will provide recommendations about performance or performance review to people, or recommendations about one person or the other to be promoted or change on their jobs, who is actually making that decision? What's the data coming from? Is there any bias that is embedded in the machine? So is favoring one population against the other one, not because they're different, but because there's more data that was used for the training coming from one set of skills, one set of one particular population, and the other ones are not getting better in their jobs or in their career progression because they are not represented on the systems that are actually reviewing that performance. So it changed between all that spectrum. The more close you are to affecting persons, first I would say persons and human beings' lives or development in any way on basic needs, the more them need to be tested. In the middle, you probably say that everything that relates to financial decision, obviously, because corporations are still for profit, many of them, they will take long measures and big measures to make sure they are tested so they don't lose money. And you have on the other side of the spectrum when you have AI for simple recommendations, or it's helping you building a better presentation or a paragraph or a better paper, whatever you're doing. Okay, a mistake being there is probably easy to fix. So I think it depends, obviously, what you're building, and you have to push yourself in investing the amount of time on testing and training, depending on a big amount, depending how close you are to things that have a big impact on people's life.
All right. Sebastian, what role data quality and integrity play in the responsible use of AI, and how can organizations ensure that they have reliable data for AI systems?
I think we are seeing an arms race. Everyone is fighting against each other to get the biggest, brightest AI. And I will say that more than competing for algorithms, they're competing for data. What I feel is the quality of your AI, of your predictions or your recommendation or your judgment is based on how much data and how clear is that data. The resolution, let's put it that way, of that data in terms of granularity and quality. So obviously the bigger companies with the vast amounts of data that we have here, the big internet companies, are the one making the most progress because they own a lot of data, own quote unquote, about us. So they're able to predict a lot of information. So those have the advantage. I think that now we are all competing for data and data sets that can help us take a leap and get better and train our models better. So if it is a data play, then obviously whoever gets the best data and whoever makes the most of how to transform and to prepare their data, their homegrown data, we are the ones that are going to make a difference with AI. The ones that cannot have the data or don't know how to work through the data and prepare that data to use in the models are the ones that are going to lag behind. So yes, and as we mentioned before, a lot of bias and a lot of issues and problems come with the data. So if you are also making mistakes in how you're codifying or preparing the data, that mistake is going to be amplified by the AI as soon as you get into production. So there's also things to consider that. And if you don't have the right tools and the right teams doing that, again, you are competing against others that might have an advantage over you.
Right. Sebastian, how can businesses create a balance between utilizing AI for automation, data analytics, and maintaining involvement in analysis and decision making? Yes, AI systems will be used for the data analytics and analysis, but how could we ensure that humans are also involved in a balanced way to make the decisions? Because there could be a bias or error in the data analytics and analysis done by the AI.
Yes, I think we are seeing a lot of those systems with a human in the loop and all that. I think it's, at the end of the day, even in testing and most in the production, you will see, and hopefully we'll have some sort of human auditing or human review some of the decisions that are being made. I think it's important to understand the difference between the prediction that is actually looking at data scale and finding patterns and trying to do, from linear regression to a lot of different things to say, hey, based on our history and whatever happened before, we think that this is going to happen with a high level of prediction, with a high level of, the prediction with a high level of confidence. That confidence might be super high or in between. But then there's the judgment. Is that decision the right decision to be made based on the confidence that we have? Is there something else that the data is not showing? Is something else happening around us in the context? Could be regulation, politically, the weather that the AI is not taking into account. And based on our experience as human beings, we have seen that before. Then that's the judgment. So one way of using both sides is to increase the amount of data that you take into account when you do the predictions, do a lot of different predictions, and then rely just at the end of the chain, at the end of the stream, for human beings to close the loop with a little bit of a judgment and to do, yes, this is right, this is correct, or just like reinforcement learning, say, this is not perfectly right. This is the best way to do it, and you can learn from that. But you still have that human touch at the end of it. It could be a human touch because after those predictions or decisions, you are combining them in a new way, and then you have creativity or innovation that we mentioned. Hopefully, will still be done by human beings, but you have that part that is someone taking that information into account and deciding something. So there's different ways, and we can be talking like 2 more hours about that, but there's not a big number of human beings because we want that productivity, but also still have persons in the loop that will make some sort of aggregated decision based on whatever the AI is doing or presenting to them.
All right. Are there any specific regulatory or legal frameworks that organizations should be aware of when applying AI technologies?
I don't think about right now. I think it's where we are right now. It's middle of May. I think 2 days ago was the team from OpenAI was testifying before Congress. So I think we're getting there. But no, right now there's no simple standard. There's no framework of anti-bias. Make sure that we are all designing the algorithms in a particular way. Well, we see and we feel that there's a lot of that coming, especially for different industries like healthcare, maybe legal, but we are still making steps. And you have always in Silicon Valley, always with innovation, you have the extreme of just killing innovation, but a lot of regulation. And on the other side, you have the free will, and it's just every company is doing their own thing. And there's no, us as consumer, we don't have a legal framework, a proper framework to understand what is being done by the company. So I think we are getting there. We're starting to go through that journey, and in the next few years, hopefully, we'll see a little bit more frameworks where it starts by now, but mostly of ChatGPT and other AI big models are telling you that, hey, this is an AI response, or this is generated by AI. It might be biased, it might be wrong. So at least you have a disclaimer and you know, okay, how to use that information. But we need more of that. If not, it's going to be hard to predict or understand the difference between what is being predicted by an AI or what was done by someone else.
All right. Sebastian, what steps can organizations take to address bias and fairness issues in AI algorithms and models?
I think we touch on most of that. It's again, hopefully, we will have some sort of framework or regulation that will exactly define what are those steps. Like, think about it, getting a new drug out in the US, and you have the FDA that will give you a set of steps that you need to go forward. You need to check each of them to say, hey, this is FDA approved, so it might go into the public. I think we need some sort of that. Making sure that we have following certain steps in terms of how we are procuring data, where we're getting our data from, how the data was checked and audited, how bias was removed from both the model and the data coming from that, what was the amount of testing done for that, how many human beings were involved in checking the inputs and the outputs. So we hopefully will get there in a set of procedures that we can apply to different models, make sure that we are following those, and that will grant that model some sort of third-party seal of quality that we as society can rely on. Could be by the government, could be by a ONG, like a third-party open company that is not part of any of the technology companies, that will give, okay, you can trust this because at least it has followed this certain set of guidelines that will give you a reassurance that the quality is there.
Right. The problem is, Sebastian, okay, the ideal is government issues a certain framework and a regulatory framework or the laws for the everything that is happening in the name of AI. Yes. Or on the other side, maybe there could be some private company or a private forum or whatever, a board. But until this happens, how the AI companies can create trust in front of their users and stakeholders, because companies cannot wait for the regulatory framework or the laws. I mean, how they can trust win then until this happens?
That's a great question. I think it's all about transparency, but the thing is it's so easy to and so fast to get an answer, and so easy for us to forget. Okay, I don't care where the answer, how the answer was produced. If the answer is what I need right now, I don't think about what's the implication of getting to that answer. The same that most of us share a lot of data, whether we like it or not, from our phones to a lot of these companies because it's easier to get to places, it's easier to drive, or it's easier to buy stuff from the phone. So we're already kind of giving a lot for a fast answer. If I want to do the right thing, I'm on the other side. That is what I'm trying to do for my team and my position at Tesla. It's just explaining what's the ghost in the machine, as they call it. I mean, what's behind the algorithm? What's inside the box? Where's the information coming from? How we're using the information? It's transparency. You can trust this because these were all the steps that we're taking to get to this decision. And it should be in plain enough English or whatever language it is for any people to understand that. You shouldn't need a PhD to understand how the decision was made. There's no need to get into the algorithm itself, but just which data was used, who produced that data, how far the data was coming, what's the story of that data, and then how it was used to get to a conclusion. And again, you can tell this is advice. You can either follow it or not, but this is our advice that we are giving you to make your life or your job or whatever it is easier. So I think it's about opening up and showing what's inside. And sometimes that is not what most company wants to do, specifically right now, especially right now that we are kind of fighting who's getting the advantage there.
All right. Sebastian, what skills and knowledge are essential for product innovators to effectively utilize AI in their work?
That's a big question. It's product innovators. I mean, we're mixing. I think I can tell what's from my point of view, my own experience, what I'm using every day. That I think I'm succeeding in using that is, again, you need to have a technical background enough to understand what the technology is about and what are these tricks or best practices about, why the data is important, why the training the model, what is the bias, what is overfitting. But I'm not coding algorithms or machine learning regressions every day. I'm not doing that. Some other teams are doing that, but I can understand what they're talking about, understand what they're asking me for input, and I can understand or assess the output they're giving me and say, hey, there's something that is odd here. So I think you have to have enough technical understanding of how AI or machine learning works, to have a proper conversation and to challenge others into thinking about other things. But the other part is, like any product manager, is empathy, understanding, being in the shoes of your user. Who is going to use this? What's the purpose? What's in for them? Why they're going to use machine learning on AI decision if they're doing that right now manually? What's the value? If they rely on something else, on other type of judgment, what's the story you're telling them that they're becoming better, they're doing better? If they're paid by the hour, do they more? They do more every week and get a better paycheck at the end of the week to support their families? Will they progress in their careers because they're making better decisions and faster decisions so they can show more productivity? So you need to tell a story that your product is fixing. And AI is just an embedded tool. It's one of the things that are embedded there that will get the product to become better. But at the end, is how us as teams are becoming better and doing better by using that tool.
Right. How can startups and small businesses leverage AI to drive product innovation, considering their limited resources? Tips, strategies.
I think we're coming from open source again, by open source and cloud computing are the two things that have unlocked a lot of innovation and productivity in small SMBs. 20 years ago, 30 years ago, you need a lot of money to buy a couple of servers, an ERP, a database, and a test environment and development environment and whatnot. Nowadays, you can spin a computer pretty easily, or a compute node in the cloud, and start doing AI and start throwing models. So I don't think that the constraint for small companies right now is computing power or capacity or tools, because everything is for free, everything is open, most of it. I think it's, again, data, how you can get enough data to do a proper analysis. If you don't have the data yourself, how can you leverage other methods to gather the data, to get the data, how you can buy the data? I think that's the difference between the big guys and the medium to small guys is they don't have enough data to actually train the models as good with such fidelity as the other ones. And then it's the access to the knowledge, or the human resources, the data scientists, the people working with the data and the pipelines to embed into the algorithms, the machine learning, is the one looking at the output, testing and improving. So it's also an arms race for both the data and the human power doing that, and the engineering power. But you can get both of those if you are an SMB, if you find your ways to hire or to get that from a different country, from a different place. Again, you can buy the data, you can go and use surveys, other things that you can get enough data for you to start.
All right. Sebastian, last question.
Okay.
Keeping in view the speed of change, let me say, speed of change is very aggressive and erratic. You can't predict actually.
Yes.
Every day we are knowing or getting the news about a new AI tool. Keeping in view the speed of AI, how do you see the future? How AI will impact multiple industries in view of the product innovation, in view of automation, and industry in general? And how do you think the companies and academia and government, these three stakeholders, what all people should do to cope with this change?
I don't know if I had an answer. If I have an answer for that question, I would probably build a few startups right now, and I would solve most of the problems. So it's a really hard question to answer. I think we are all learning right now. I joined Tesla last year, and I was using the word augmentation and thinking, hey, can we use these tools to make our day-to-day job better? ChatGPT was not released at the time, ChatGPT 3 or 4. And so in I don't know, 5 months, everything changed. So it's now, I think we're in the middle of such a pace of change that it's really hard to cope with. And I'm an engineer. So I understand and try to learn. I love the fact of understanding what can be done. So there's a lot of people that might lag behind. So I think it's part of academia and try to quickly adapt to that challenge, to learn, to teach enough for people to become better using these kind of tools, to a lot of people to know how to create things on top of those tools, and also for academia to, as we mentioned before, teach people enough to understand when they're using that tool, what they're getting. I mean, what's the pros and cons of using the tool? So I think academia needs to, yes, it's going to be hard. And then government is even worse. Again, it's about regulations and everything that could be like FDA or whatever it is that just said. It won't be enough. It will always be, innovation will move faster than regulation, has always been the case. But at least you have a certain framework that you can extend maybe each year to add more steps or change steps. But you have a basic framework, the things that you need to check in order to call that AI or that particular machine is doing the right thing. We need those two, and those two will take more time. It will be harder to get the companies that are creating new stuff on top of AI. So it's a hard balance, and it's going to be messy for a few years, I imagine.
Right. Sebastian, audience of my podcast is startup founders, university students, educators, and startup community. So before we complete this episode, what message and advice would you like to give to all of the audience? Any inspiring message that would change their life?
I would say probably be kind. Be kind in what you do. For me, being kind is, again, talking about augmentation most of the time and not automation. Throwing and mentioning the word empathy in a lot of really technical meetings about models and efficiency and productivity and data and crunching and all that. So we are here with these tools. The value of these tools is to us to become better. So always make sure that the end game is that one. You are using that to make people better, make a better life for them. So no matter what you're doing, what industry or your position, if you're learning, if you are implementing these kind of things, or you are creating something new, which lives and how you're changing those lives with these tools. Take that into account.
Sebastian, trust me, it was really, really insightful. And I'm sure that my audience will learn a lot of things out of this podcast. And I'm really thankful to you for sparing the time and joining today's show.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure.